Okay, great. I'm sorry that we missed everybody last week. I got sick, and we're having to kind of take up after a bit of a gap. But I had 2 weeks ago, I had like a religious experience that I wanted to share with everybody, and that's why I ended up, making the line message to say we're going to change up a little bit of what we're covering. Because 2 weeks ago, George wasn't here. He wasn't able to be here. And so I got impatient, and, first of all, hello to Desi, and hello to Frank, and hello to Ari, and hello to Michael, and hello to all my other friends. But a couple weeks ago, when George wasn't here, normally I wait for the YouTube video, right, to take a look at how it turned out. And because it wasn't available yet, I finally, Mei-Ling just asked me, do you want to just see the Facebook? Now, I don't do Facebook, so I never really see the Facebook group and that sort of thing. So I looked at it for the first time, really, and I was blown away. As a matter of fact, it made me cry. Because the number of people that are from all over the world that are sharing this with us now is pretty profound to me. And the scope, the thing about I know a lot of people that are watching from America or from Europe. Jackie, how you doing? Marilyn, all the friends that we've had through the years. But I realized that I couldn't even pronounce half of the names of the people on Facebook. So that shows me it's a whole different culture. It's just like, what could connect all of us then? And then it became a very profound circumstance for me, because without getting into it, I had my mentor say some pretty spooky stuff to me when I was a younger person about how it would be when I got older and what my mission was and all that sort of thing. And so a couple weeks ago, I realized that there's not a lot of us, but we are all a group, and we're actually a group from all over the world. The countries that I saw and realized that there are people viewing from just, again, overwhelmed me. So the key is that as I chanted about that experience, that very almost mystic experience of understanding that, I realized that there are a lot of people that are following this, trying to understand more. And so I need you to understand what it takes to really understand. Okay? In other words, this is a step for you to perceive your life from. All right? So right now, obviously, we've been reading The Heritage of the Ultimate Law of Life and Death. We've been reading Daisaku Ikeda's lecture on it. Okay? We've gone through the first 4 chapters. The 5th chapter is really a recap of the previous 3. All right? So rather than get back into that recap immediately, I wanted to make sure that everybody had the ability to perceive and understand what the Daishonin says about study and about faith and about belief. Okay? Because no one that watches these videos is going to be able to get out of them what I want them to get out of them if they don't capture the concept of lifelong faith. That was what I tried to convey in that video a year and a half ago, and it was like the 100th video or whatever. But for everybody that's out there watching, you do understand that if you're going to, I've been practicing for 46 years, if you're going to do this, it's not easy. And it's very easy to stop. And it's very easy to become deluded in thinking that you know what you don't know. Okay? So it's important for me to at least share with you what I know needs to be shared for you to really foundationalize your faith as a direct relationship with Nichiren Daishonin. And the most important thing for me is for you to somehow perceive yourself as a bodhisattva of the earth. Okay? As a bodhisattva of the earth, what does that automatically make you? If you really are a bodhisattva of the earth, which means you're someone that never forsakes their faith in any lifetime whatsoever, what does that make you then? What do you do in each of those lifetimes then? You teach the teaching of the original Buddha. You're a disciple of the original Buddha. Okay, so what does that make you then? What are you teaching? Of course you're teaching Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, but what is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo? It's the law. Okay, so I'm going to be reading tonight from the Teacher of the Law chapter of the Lotus Sutra, and then I'm going to read what Nichiren says about it in chapter 10 of the orally transmitted teachings. In the meantime, though, I want to start tonight by going, and this is sort of a left turn because I didn't give the link. And by the way, everybody on Facebook, you can all thank Sling. Sling is the one that's really made that continue to work. And I have so much appreciation for that. But if we go to page 54, and by the way, for those of you that think that I don't know you're there, Frank and everybody, I mean, this is a little list of all of your names that I am aware of at this point in time. I'll try to expand it to include the Facebook list as well. But do understand, I chant for all of you, sincerely and really, I actually do. Okay? So let me share this with you now, please. Let's go to 54 from the orally transmitted teachings. And what this is actually doing, this is the Daishonin discussing the teaching on chapter 4, belief and understanding. It's 6 important points. I'm only going to read number 1. It's page 54 and page 55 in its entirety. It says, point 1, concerning the belief and understanding chapter. On words and phrases, and that would be Myolo, right? Volume 6 says that in the Lotus Sutra, because it says on words and phrases would be Tentai. It's going to say both here. On Words and Phrases, Volume 6 says, in the Lotus Sutra of the Correct Law, this chapter is entitled Belief and Wish Chapter. Though the meaning is similar, the word wish is less appropriate than understanding. The chapter describes how the 4 disciples, Subhuti, Katyayana, Mahakashayapa, and Madhyayana, gained an understanding of the teachings. But what justification is there for the use of the word wish? I just moved that. Okay. But what justification is there for the use of the word wish? The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the 28 chapters that make up the Lotus Sutra bear various titles. Belief and Understanding is the title given to this chapter. The Truth of 3,000 Realms in a Single Moment of Life, too, has its origins in this single word belief or faith. And it is through this single word belief that the Buddhas of the 3 existences of past, present, and future attained their enlightenment. Everybody's with me? So this is saying the most fundamental requirement to get started in the right path and sustain it is faith. Okay? True, deep faith. The faith that has made a vow and committed to never stop. This word belief is a sharp sword that cuts off fundamental darkness or ignorance, because it's the word that empowers you to perceive and actualize the power of the law. Therefore, with regard to belief, words and phrases, that's now we're back to Tentai, says, belief means to be without doubt. It is a sharp sword that cuts away doubt and perplexity. And that's actually the last conversation when we had that little go back and forth. That's what started me on all of this thinking, okay? So it says, understanding is another name for wisdom. Belief represents the value or price we attach to a jewel or treasure, and understanding represents the jewel itself. It is through the one word belief that we are able to purchase the wisdom of the Buddhas of the 3 existences. That wisdom is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So faith in the law is what allows you to manifest the power of the law, and that fortifies your sense of understanding and belief. It's based on your own actual experience rather than a theoretical premise of reading some doctrine somewhere, right? Belief represents the price or value we attach to a jewel or treasure, and understanding represents the jewel itself. It is through the one word belief that we are able to purchase the wisdom of the sutras, the wisdom of the Buddhas of the 3 existences. That wisdom is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Belief is the source of wisdom. That's why I'm reading this to you. It's very important for you to all understand. And it's quite all right to then take that belief and challenge your practice and challenge the Gohonzon to show you actual proof of your belief. That's how your belief keeps getting built into something that's understanding. All right? So he says, belief is the source of wisdom and belongs to the stage of hearing the name and the words of the truth. Stage 2 of practice, right? Outside of belief, there can be no understanding. So you can't understand anything if you don't believe this teaching. And outside of understanding, there can be no belief, because they're actually two sides of the same coin. It is through this one word, belief, that the seeds of perfect enlightenment are sown. So I'm saying this again to the people that are watching. Please do understand, this requires you to take it upon yourself to make a commitment to the Gohonzon, to actualize everything there is to actualize, to be the Buddha in your present form. And if you don't understand yourself to be that now, you will, if you just never give up. Now, when Nichiren and his followers believe in and accept Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, they are gaining possession of a great precious jewel. In the words of the Belief and Understanding chapter, this cluster of unsurpassed jewels has come to us unsought because you didn't have the wisdom to seek it. That's the point. That's why the faith has to come first, because you can't possibly, in the absence of your Buddha nature having emerged, understand to do this. Okay? Belief is the seed of wisdom. The failure to believe will lead one to fall into hell. Again, we may say that belief corresponds to the principle of eternal and unchanging truth. Therefore, belief means to experience. Therefore, belief means to experience the knowledge that all dharmas or phenomena are, every one of them, the Buddha, Dharma, or law. Okay? Not for you to just read it or know about it, but for it to be very clear in your life through your own actualization of it yourself. All right? That's from Great Concentration and Insight. And to believe in the single truth or principle of the true aspect of all phenomena, which Nichiren has clarified as Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, right? Understanding corresponds to the wisdom that functions in accordance with changing circumstances. That is to say, the immeasurable wisdom that is freely gained and employed. Volume 9 of Words and Phrases, Tentai, says, belief means to be without doubt. Understanding means to have a clear perception of the matter. Volume 6 of Words and Phrases, Tentai again says, the disciples of intermediate capacity, such as Subhuti and others, when they heard the Buddha preach the Simile and Parable chapter for the first time, rid themselves of doubt and perplexity and entered upon the path of insight expounded in the Great Vehicle. In Mahayana Buddhism is the Great Vehicle, right? Therefore, this step of the process is termed belief, because when we say, when Tentai is talking about the Great Vehicle, he can't really be talking about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo yet, because the advent of Daishonin hasn't happened. Therefore, this step of the process is termed belief. They then proceeded to the path of practice as expounded in the Great Vehicle, and the Correct and Equal and Wisdom Sutras, all that stuff, in Mahayana Buddhism. Therefore, this is termed understanding. Volume 6 of On Words and Phrases, so this is Myolo, this is a further interpretation of Tentai, commenting on this, says, looking at the matter from the viewpoint of the Great Vehicle, from the standpoint of Mahayana Buddhism, we may say that the two words belief and understanding refer to the two paths of insight and practice. First, one rids oneself of doubt, and therefore this is called belief. Then one proceeds to embark on the path of practice, and this is called understanding. The term belief applies to both parts, but the term understanding applies only to the path of practice. Therefore, the path of practice is termed understanding. So you focus on getting the benefits and seeing the actual proof that are required for you to have belief. And then you allow that belief to mature into a perception of yourself as the Buddha or as a Bodhisattva. And you proceed along the path of practice, which ultimately leads to the sixth stage, realizing that you are the Buddha exactly as you are. So now, going to page 199 from the Lotus Sutra. This is the Threefold Lotus Sutra, translation by Burton Watson. Page 199 is where we will start reading tonight on the chapter of the law, chapter 10. Now, why did I pick this chapter and I start here? Because according to Nichiren, every one of you is a teacher of the law, so long as you don't ever abandon your faith. As long as you practice throughout your lifetime. You're a bodhisattva of the earth.
Right.
As a bodhisattva of the earth, you are a teacher of the law. You made your advent in this Sahe world of your own volition and because of a desire to help and save others and make them equal to yourself. Okay? That's what all teachers of the law do. Right? So, starting from chapter 10, this is again still the first 14 chapters. This is the theoretical element. The benefits of the teacher of the law is the essential element that's later in the sutra. I think chapter 19 or whatever it is. But again, going to 199. Here I start. Where's my? Okay. At that time, everybody's with me?
Yes.
All right. At that time, the world-honored one addressed Bodhisattva Medicine King, and through him the others of the 80,000 great men, saying, and this is the Lotus Sutra I'm reading from, everybody. Medicine King, do you see in this great assembly the immeasurable number of heavenly beings, dragon kings, yakshas, gandharvas, asuras, garudas, kimanas, and mohanagaras, and the human and non-human beings, and the monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, and those who seek to become voice hearers, who seek to become prakyakas, Buddhas, or who seek the Buddha way? If these various kinds of beings in the presence of the Buddha listen to one verse or one phrase of the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law, and for a moment think of it with joy, I will bestow on all of them a prophecy that they will attain supreme perfect enlightenment. The Buddha said to Medicine King, in addition, after the thus come one has passed into extinction, there should be someone who listens to the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law, even one phrase or one verse, and for a moment thinks of it with joy. I will likewise bestow on him a prophecy that he will attain supreme perfect enlightenment. Anattara Samyak Sambodhai, right? Again, if there are people who embrace, read, recite, expound, and copy the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law, even only one verse, and look upon this sutra with the same reverence as they would the Buddha, presenting various offerings of flowers, incense, necklaces, powdered incense, paste incense for burning, silken canopies, streamers, and banners, clothing and music, and pressing their palms together in reverence, then Medicine King, you should understand that these people have already offered alms to 100,000 million Buddhas, and in the place of the Buddhas have fulfilled their great vow, and because they take pity on living beings, they have been born in this human world. So what's he say there? What did he just say there? What did he just say there? He said that these bodhisattvas are already all Buddhas. Didn't he? He says, again, if there are people who embrace, read, recite, and expound and copy the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law, he's saying if they do all that, don't we do all that? We do all that, right? We recite the Lotus Sutra every day. We do everything that I just discussed. Okay? He's saying then that you should understand that all of you are already Buddhas. Okay? Why? He says, Medicine King, if someone should ask what living beings will be able to attain Buddhahood in future existences, then you should show him that all these people are certain to attain Buddhahood in future existences. Why? Because if good men and good women embrace, read, recite, expound, and copy the Lotus Sutra, even one phrase of it, offer various kinds of alms to the sutra, flowers, incense, necklaces, powdered incense, paste incense, incense for burning, silken canopies, streamers and banners, clothing and music, and press their palms together in reverence, then these people will be looked up to and honored by all the world. Alms will be offered to them as such would be offered to the thus come one. They will receive benefit from the function of who they are. You should understand that these people are great bodhisattvas who have succeeded in attaining supreme perfect enlightenment. Now, what does that just say? You should understand that these people are all great bodhisattvas who have succeeded in attaining supreme perfect enlightenment because they preach the Lotus Sutra. He hasn't said that they have any depth of understanding or clarity. He's not qualified anything other than their devotion, has he? It's that association that qualifies that relationship. But notice that he has here, even though we had, up until now, we had been talking about voice hearers and cause awakened ones and bodhisattvas and those that were following the Buddha way, right? Now he's just qualified that these great bodhisattvas are Buddhas, right? They have already succeeded in attaining supreme perfect enlightenment, anuttara samyak sambodhaya. That means they've already attained perfect Buddhahood, all right? But they appear as bodhisattvas in order to teach the law. That's why this chapter is called Teacher of the Law. Get it? Okay, you're all teachers of the law, just like Nichiren was a teacher of the law. Pitying living beings, they have vowed to be born among them, where they may broadly expound and make distinctions regarding the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law. What's the other clarity there that he's just qualified? What is your purpose and function if you've come here you made your advent as a bodhisattva of the earth, as he just described? Let me read it again. Pitying living beings.
Compassion.
You have that compassion. That's the basis of your bodhisattvahood, right? They have vowed, they promised to be born among the non-Buddhas that have the potential to be Buddhahood, to attain Buddhahood. They just haven't done it yet. And where they may broadly expound and make distinctions regarding the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law. Why does he always throw in and make distinctions? He doesn't just say expound ever. He doesn't just say expound the Lotus Sutra. He always says expound and make distinctions. What does that mean? You're teaching it. You're clarifying it. You're representing it with your life. Okay? That's what that means. He says they make distinctions. They qualify the essential aspects. They qualify the changing aspect. How did the changing thing that never changes? Hang on. I have to go back to find it. But again, the idea is that the Sahe world is in a constant state of flux, right? Okay, but the teaching is somewhat static if you just read the Lotus Sutra, correct? It's a sentence-by-sentence pronouncement that was made 2,000 or almost 3,000 years ago, right? So the idea is that the distinctions are being made because you're capable as Buddhas to qualify those important things that need to be clarified. Okay? I make distinctions constantly here. That's what I'm doing. This is what it says I should be doing. All right? That's why what I'm doing is not incorrect. All right? So he says, how much more so is this true then of those who can embrace the entire sutra and offers various types of alms to the sutra? Medicine King, because he's already saying all you had to do was a word or a phrase, right? He said, how much more so the people that are fully blown into this completely? Medicine King, you should understand that these people, all of you, voluntarily relinquish the reward due them for their pure deeds, and in the time after I have passed into extinction, because they pity living beings, they are born in this evil world so that they may broadly expound this sutra. If one of these good men or good women in the time after I have passed into extinction is able to secretly expound the Lotus Sutra to one person, even one phrase of it, then you should know that he or she is the envoy of the Thus Come One. There's no separation between us. He has been dispatched by the Thus Come One and carries out the Thus Come One's work. How much more so will those who in the midst of the great assembly broadly expound the sutra for others? The more capable you are, the more fortune you are reflecting. Medicine King, if there should be an evil person who, his mind destitute of goodness, should for the space of a kalpa appear in the presence of the Buddha and constantly curse and revile that Buddha, the Buddha, that person's offense would still be rather light. But if there were a person who spoke only one evil word to curse or defame the lay persons or monks or nuns who read and recite the Lotus Sutra, then his offense would be very grave. Medicine King, that's why you never have to be upset with the people that reflect the adversity in the environment. He says, Medicine King, these people who read and recite the Lotus Sutra, all of you, You should understand that these people adorn themselves with the adornments of the Buddha. They are borne upon the shoulders of the thus come one. Wherever they may go, one should greet them with bows, their palms pressed together, single-mindedly together, with reverence and alms, with respect and praise. Flowers, incense, necklaces, powdered incense, paste incense for burning, silken canopies, streamers and banners, clothing, delicacies, and the making of music. The finest alms that can be offered to a person should be offered to them. Great treasures should be scattered over them. The treasure hoards of heaven should be given them as gifts. Why do I say this? This is the key. Because these people delight in expounding the law. That's really all we're in for it. All in it for it. Okay? We may get all kinds of great good fortune from it, but we're in it because we get off on profit. We're Buddhists. Buddhists get off on this. They really don't need any payback to do this. This is the air that they breathe. Okay? Because these people, why do they deserve these alms? Why do they deserve all this praise? Why do they deserve all this respect? Because they function as Buddhas. They come to this Sahe world in order to save others, strictly and only, and to enjoy the benefits that they've accumulated through those efforts. Okay? But the point is that they come out of compassion. Right. All right? And they are Buddhas. Because these people delight in expounding the law. You cannot expound the law unless you already have activated your Buddha nature. Frankly speaking, right? What is the law? Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. I think you all pretty much chanted at least once, okay, before you start getting into telling other people about this. And if you listen to them, he says, these bodhisattvas of the earth, and if you listen to them for even a moment, you will be able to immediately achieve supreme perfect enlightenment, because they're going to take you immediately to hearing the name and the words of the truth. They're going to bypass all the karmic hubris you have developed over eons, right? At that time, the world-honored one, wishing to state his meaning once more, spoke in verse form, saying, if you wish to abide in the Buddha way and successfully gain the wisdom that comes of itself, the wisdom that comes of itself, okay, when at last, remember chapter 16.6, chapter point 1, number 6, the 6 of the 6 stages, when one at last comes to the realization and successfully gain the wisdom that comes of itself, that's the source of it, is you. You should be constantly diligent in offering alms to those who embrace the Lotus Sutra. If you have a wish to quickly obtain wisdom regarding all species of things, you should embrace this sutra. That would be Buddhahood. And at the same time, give alms to those who do so. If someone is capable of embracing the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law, know that such a person is an envoy of the Buddha who thinks with pity of living beings. Because they function as a bodhisattva of the earth. They reveal their true identity in that process. Those who are capable of embracing the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law relinquish their claim to the Pure Land, and out of pity for living beings are born here, the true Pure Land. Know that people such as these freely choose where they will be born, and so are able in this evil world to broadly expound the unsurpassed law. Let me just say that again, I screwed it up. Know that people such as these freely choose where they will be born and are able in this evil world to broadly expound the unsurpassed law. So that's the other reason I'm reading this, and what the Gohonzon told me why. I mean, I'm reading this because of something that hit me in the head and I started crying. My wife can tell you all about that. But the bottom line is, as I looked at that Facebook page, everybody, you guys are all from all over the world. You're all different. I mean, I can't believe that we're all communicating and getting off on that communication. But once again, you've been born wherever you've been born. For the same reason I've been born where I've been born. We're all in this together, and we all have a relationship with one another, or this communication would not be taking place. Okay? So that's really spooky. That's really spooky weird to me, that we could have this contact. Because again, everybody that I'm talking to right now that's watching the video, they're all connected to you guys. You know, I might be doing this talking and I might be reflecting on 46 years of practice in doing so, but the only reason I'm doing so is because of you. Okay, so that the benefit flows to everybody else that finds this interesting or is attracted to this. So, you should, he says, to those of us that do this, that because we freely choose to do this, you should offer the incense of heavenly flowers, robes decked with heavenly treasures, the wonderful treasure hoards of heaven, as alms to those who preach the law. In the evil world following my extinction, if there are those who can embrace this sutra, you should press your palms together in reverence and offer alms to them as you would the world-honored one, because they're world-honored ones. The choicest delicacies, all that is sweet and tasty, along with various types of clothing, you should offer as alms to these Buddha's sons, in hopes that you may hear a moment of their preaching. If there are those in a latter age who can accept and embrace this sutra, they are my envoys sent out among the people to perform the thus comes one's work. That's all of you listening. If for the space of a kalpa one should constantly harbor a mind destitute of good and with angry look should revile the Buddha, one will be committing an offense of immeasurable gravity. But if toward those who read, recite, and embrace this Lotus Sutra, one should, even for a moment, direct evil words, one's offense will be far greater than that. If there is someone who seeks the Buddha way and for the space of a kalpa presses palms together in my presence and recites numberless verses of praise, because of these praises of the Buddha, he will gain immeasurable blessings. And if he lauds and extols those who uphold this sutra, his good fortune will be even greater. For the space of 80 million kalpas, with the most wonderful shapes and sounds, with that which is pleasing to smell, taste, and touch, offer alms to the upholders of this sutra. When you have offered alms in this manner and have heard the teachings for even a moment, then you will experience joy and good fortune, saying, I have gained great benefit. Medicine King, now I say to you, I have preached various sutras, and among those sutras, the Lotus Sutra is foremost. And I want to just stop here and again. Why? Now, when we talk about, he says, and if he lauds and extols those who uphold this sutra, his good fortune will be even greater. So if he lauds and extols who uphold this sutra, who could I point to right now that upholds this sutra in a way that not many people in the history of Buddhism have? Daisaku Ikeda. Why can I read this to you?
Because of this.
Because Burton Watson got paid.
To translate.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, the bottom line is that you should perceive the reality. Why are we encouraged to have respect and appreciation toward President Ikeda? Is to keep from making the cause of not having that respect and appreciation, because that would be a slander. Do you understand? Because he's doing the things he's supposed to do. I read them to you. If I could find something wrong with what he's doing, I would tell you. I would not have a hesitation to do that. But I can find nothing wrong with what he's doing. And as a matter of fact, he's inspired me to try to emulate him. Okay? Which is what I'm trying to inspire you to do. All right? So, continuing on page 203. At that time, the Buddha spoke once more to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Medicine King, saying, The sutras I have preached number immeasurable thousands, 10,000 millions. Among the sutras I have preached, now preach, and will preach, this Lotus Sutra is the most difficult to believe and most difficult to understand. Medicine King, this sutra is the storehouse of the secret crux of the Buddhas. It must not be distributed or recklessly transmitted to others, which is one of the reasons why we're not in the Nichiren group when we've just done this through George, right? It has been guarded by the Buddhas, the world-honored ones, from times past until now, has never been openly expounded. Since hatred and jealousy toward this sutra abound even when the thus come one is in the world, how much more so will this be after his passing? How much more will this be so after his passing? Medicine King, you should know that after the thus come one has entered extinction, if there are those who can copy, uphold, read and recite this sutra, offer alms to it, and expound it for others, then the thus come one will cover them with his robe And they will also be protected and kept in mind by the Buddhas who are now present in other directions, as I'm sure that I am. These people will possess the power of great faith, the power of aspiration, the power of good roots. You should know that these people will lodge in the same place as the Thus Come One, and the Thus Come One will pat them on the head with his hand. They will not be perplexed. They will not meet deadlock or dead end. They'll never give up. Medicine King, in any place whatsoever where this sutra is preached, where it is read, where it is recited, where it is copied, or where a roll of it exists, in all such places there should be erected towers made of the 7 kinds of gems, and they should be made very high and broad and well adorned. There is no need to enshrine the relics of the Buddha there. Why? Because in these towers the entire body of the Thus Come One will already be present. All kinds of flowers, incense, necklaces, silken canopies, streamers, and banners, music and hymns should be offered as alms to these towers, and they should be accorded reverence, honor, and praise. If when people see these towers they bow in obeisance and offer alms, then you should know that these people have all drawn near to supreme perfect enlightenment. Now what did we just discuss there?
There is no difference between us and the Thus Come One.
And what?
The Thus Come One?
And the Thus Come One. That's right. There's no difference between us and the Buddha. We are the Buddha. But what's he specifically talking about here? What did he just say? He said, wherever this Lotus Sutra, okay, is read, recited, preached, copied, or where a roll of it exists, in all such places there should be erected towers made of the 7 kinds of gems. Now let me tell you what the 7 kinds of gems represent. 7 kinds of gems represent, where's that? I lost it after I took the rubber band off. Where? You're right, thank you, dear. 7 kinds of treasures. Now again, this is mentioned in the Teacher of the Law chapter, but where is it also mentioned? Think. Chapter 10. What's chapter 11? Emergence of the
treasure tower.
Yeah, and what's it adorned with?
Same kind of treasure.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. And what's the Daishonin qualified that the Gohonzon actually represents? Treasure tower.
Treasure tower.
Okay. And where does the Gohonzon reside? In our homes as an object of devotion, right? And so, let me reread this after. Again, what he's saying is that the Gohonzon should be wherever you read, recite, and practice the Lotus Sutra. Read it that way. Think of it that way. Medicine King, in any place whatsoever where the sutra is preached, where it is read, where it is recited, where it is copied, or where a roll of it exists, in all such places there should be erected towers made of the 7 kinds of gems, and they should be very high and broad and well adorned. There is no need to enshrine the relics of the Buddha there. That means like pieces of bone and whatever, right? Why? Because in these towers, the entire body of the Thus Come One will already be present. He's talking about the Gohonzon well in advance, 2,000 years before the Gohonzon ever actualized itself. All right? He says, and then he says, all kinds of flowers, incense, necklaces, silken canopies, streamers, and banners, music, and hymns should be offered as alms to these towers. And they should be accorded reverence, honor, and praise. This is all about the Gohonzon. If when people see these towers, they bow in obeisance and offer alms, and you should know that these people have all drawn near to supreme perfect enlightenment because they have a relationship with the entity that will ultimately allow them to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. What are the 7 treasures? It is the treasure tower adorned with the 7 kinds of treasures. Hearing the correct teaching, 1. Believing it, 2. Keeping the precepts, 3. Engaging in meditation, 4. Practicing assiduously, 5. Renouncing one's attachments, 6. And 7 is reflecting on oneself. Okay? This is all self-contained, is what I'm saying. So,
Renouncing all attachment.
renouncing all attachments really means that basically you're eliminating the things that keep you bound to being in the 9 worlds more than you're in the 10th. Okay? If you had attachments, those attachments would be to things that are temporary. Do you understand? All right, so continuing. So, okay? You want me to? I'm renouncing all attachments of the 7 kinds of treasures that are preached in the theoretical teaching of the Lotus Sutra. When we get to the precept of the diamond chalice of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we don't have to worry about that. It's already all included. You get it? Okay. Medicine King. Though there may be many people, those still living in the household and those left in it, who practice the way of the Bodhisattva, if they are not willing to see, hear, read, recite, copy, embrace, and offer alms of this Lotus Sutra, then you should know that these people are not yet practicing the Bodhisattva way in a fitting manner. But if there are those who will listen to the sutra, then they are capable of practicing the Bodhisattva way in a fitting manner. All you got to do is listen. If among the living beings who seek the Buddha way there are those who see or hear this Lotus Sutra, and who, having heard it, believe, understand, and embrace it, then you should know that these people can draw near to supreme perfect enlightenment, those that are introduced and start to immediately begin to practice. Medicine King, suppose there is a man who is parched with thirst and in need of water. This is great. This is a great analogy. On an upland plateau, he begins digging a hole in search of water on an upland plateau. But he sees that the soil is dry and knows that water is still far away. He does not cease his efforts, however, and bit by bit, he sees the soil becoming damper until gradually he has worked his way into mud. Now everybody understands what he's talking about, right? Just going down through the layers of sediment until you finally get to water. It takes a long time, especially if you started on a high plateau, right? Now he is determined in his mind to go on, for he knows that he is bound to be nearing water because he got to mud. He can see a result. All right? The way of the Bodhisattva is the same as this. Now think of that analogy and think of your own life. As long as a person has not yet heard, not yet understood, and not yet been able to practice this Lotus Sutra, then you should know that that person is still far away from supreme perfect enlightenment. But if the person is able to hear, understand, ponder, and practice the sutra, then you should know that he can draw near to supreme perfect enlightenment. Why? Because all bodhisattvas who attain supreme perfect enlightenment in all cases do so through this sutra. This sutra opens the gate of expedient means and shows the form of true reality. The storehouse of the Lotus Sutra is hidden deep and far away where no person can reach it. But now the Buddha, teaching, converting, and leading to success the bodhisattvas, opens it up for them. Medicine King, if there are bodhisattvas who on hearing this Lotus Sutra respond with surprise, doubt, and fear, then you should know that they are bodhisattvas who have only newly embarked on their course. And if there are voice hearers who, on hearing this sutra, respond with surprise, doubt, and fear, then you should know that they are people of overbearing arrogance because they don't have the faith to believe the sutra. Medicine King, if there are good men and good women who, after the Thus Come One has entered extinction, wish to expound this Lotus Sutra for the 4 kinds of believers, how should they expound it? These good men and good women should enter the Thus Come One's room, put on the Thus Come One's robe, sit in the Thus Come One's seat, and then for the sake of the 4 kinds of believers, broadly expound this sutra. They should do it as a Buddha. The Thus Come One's room is the state of mind that shows great pity and compassion toward all living beings. The Thus Come One's robe is the mind that is gentle and forbearing. The Thus Come One's seat is the emptiness of all phenomena. One should seat oneself comfortably therein. In other words, be good to yourself. You deserve that. One should seat oneself comfortably therein. Get ready because it's going to be a while. And after that, with a mind never lazy or remiss, should for the sake of the bodhisattvas of the 4 kinds of believers broadly expound this Lotus Sutra. Medicine King, I will send people conjured up by magic to other lands to gather together assemblies to listen to the law. And that, again, this is part of what hit me when I saw all those faces from all over the world a couple weeks ago. If what we've got going on right now in doing this thing on Wednesdays and the fact that we're having a conversation that is extending all completely around, I mean, if that's not magic, I don't know how else to describe. How would I know these people? How would we have any contact? It's got to be, all right? Other lands to gather together assemblies to listen to the law. So everybody everywhere, you have all been born wherever you were born for the sake of propagating the teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo in wherever it is you are. All right? These people conjured up by magic will listen to the law, believe and accept it, and abide by it without violation. And I know some of you are exactly that way, or you wouldn't be listening to me. If the preachers of the law are in an empty and silent place, I will at that time send large numbers of heavenly beings, dragons, spirits, Gandharvas, Asuras, and others to listen to their preaching of the law. Though I should be in another land, from time to time I will make it possible for the preachers of the law to see my body. If they should forget a phrase of this sutra, I will appear and prompt them so that they are able to recite the text correctly and in full. At that time, the world-honored one, wishing to state his meaning once more, spoke in verse form, saying, if you wish to put aside all sloth and remissness, you must listen to this sutra. It is hard to get a chance to hear this sutra, and believing and accepting it is too is hard. If a person is thirsty and wants water, he may dig a hole in the high plateau. But as long as he sees that the soil is dry, he knows the water is still far away. But bit by bit he sees the soil grow damp and muddy, and then he knows for certain he is nearing water. Medicine King, you should understand that people are like this. If they do not hear the Lotus Sutra, they will be far removed from the Buddha wisdom. But if they hear this profound sutra, which defines the teachings of the voice hearer, if they hear this king of the sutras and afterward carefully ponder it, then you should know that these people are close to the wisdom of the Buddha. If a person expounds this sutra, he should enter the thus come one's room, put on the thus come one's robe, sit in the thus come one's seat, confront the assembly without fear, and broadly expound it for them, making distinctions. Great pity and compassion are the room, gentleness and patience are the robe, and emptiness of all phenomena is the seat. And from that position, he should expound the law for them. If when a person expounds this sutra, there is someone who speaks ill or reviles him, or attacks him with swords and staves, tiles and stones, he should think of the Buddha, and for that reason be patient. In 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000 lands, and he's saying that basically if they attack you, you should have compassion for them because they just screwed themselves. In 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000 lands, I will manifest my pure and durable body, and for immeasurable millions of kalpas will expound the law for living beings. If after I have passed into extinction, there are those who can expound this sutra, I will send the 4 kinds of believers, magically conjured, monks, nuns, and men and women of pure faith, to offer alms to the teachers of the law. They will lead and guide living beings, assemble them, and cause them to listen to the law. If someone thinks to do evil to the preachers with swords and staves or with tiles and stones, I will dispatch people magically conjured who will act to guard and protect them. If those who expound the law are alone in empty and silent places, and in that stillness where no human voice sounds, they read and recite the sutra, at that time I will manifest my pure and radiant body for them. If they forget a passage or a phrase, I will prompt them so that they will be thorough and effective. If people endowed with these virtues should expound to the 4 kinds of believers and read and recite the sutra in empty places, I will enable all of them to see my body. And if the people are in empty and silent places, I will send heavenly beings, dragon kings, yaksha spirits, and others to be assemblies and listen to the law. These people will delight in expounding the law, making distinctions and encountering no hindrance. These people will delight in expounding the law, making distinctions and encountering no hindrance. Because the Buddhas guard and keep them in mind, they will be able to bring joy to the great assemblies. If you stay close to the teachers of the law, you will speedily gain the Bodhisattva way. By following and learning from these teachers, you will see Buddhas as numerous as Ganges sands, which to me is like you'll see everybody as a Buddha. Okay? But again, what does he say? What's he saying here, going back to page 207, when he says, if there are those... Okay, if someone thinks to do evil to the preachers of the law with swords and staves or with tiles and stones, I will dispatch people magically conjured who will act to guard and protect them. That's the point that I was trying to make too. Okay, you will find, or at least I found, and that was it for this, that in the course of my 46 years of practice, there have been people that were very instrumental to my prayers being answered that did not chant. That were mysteriously just in my life. They totally got shakabuku'd by me. They sure all knew about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. But they were in different positions of power and authority in their life, and they didn't feel a need, and they weren't in a, they just, but I still taught them all about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. I talked about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo whenever we were together. They all thought I was cute. Okay? But they were all people that protected me, promoted me, increased my income, did all kinds of cool stuff for me. You should always understand that's all from the Gohonzon. And your relationship with those people is why they do those things for you. When you have people that are giving you those kinds of alms, and that's exactly what you should view them as, you should always make sure that you at least reciprocate by telling them Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Right? It's the least you can do. All right. Now going back to the orally transmitted teachings now, so that I can go to chapter 10, the Teacher of the Law chapter, and I'm just going to start right in. This starts on page 81 of the orally transmitted teachings. Okay, Teacher of the Law, 16 important points, and I'm going to plow through this to try and get it all in tonight, so I don't have to do an extra video between now and next week. Next week we will start on chapter 5 of this again. In the meantime, we're going to finish what we're doing tonight right now on page 81, chapter 10. All right. Point 1, concerning the teacher of the law. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, and whenever we read it, whenever it says the record of the orally transmitted teaching says, that's when Daishonin is now qualifying his take, his understanding, his enlightenment, the important thing for the bodhisattvas of the earth to perceive and understand and incorporate it into their practice and faith. He says, the record of the orally transmitted teaching says the word law, ho, here stands for shoho, the various phenomena of existence. Everybody's with me? That's everything, right? The word teacher, she, indicates that all these various phenomena act directly as our teacher. That is, the varied and numberless phenomena of the 3,000 realms can act directly as our teacher, and we become their disciples. That's going back to, again, where you just the wisdom that comes of itself that I just talked about, right? The wisdom that comes of itself is what they're talking about here. The phenomena of the 9 worlds act as your teacher to perceive the 10th world in all things. You can only really understand in actuality the teaching when it's actualized in your view of reality. Right. When you see it as part of, you see reality as the teaching. This isn't an explanation that's some theoretical construct. Do you understand? This is an actual, this is your mind perceiving the truth at that point, right? Okay. So he says, that is the varied and numberless phenomena of the 3,000 realms can act as our teacher, and we can become their disciples. Life itself, the Buddha nature that exists in all things, is the thing that's teaching us at all times. You understand? We never stop learning. We continue to progress and deepen in our perception and capability to perceive throughout our life. Now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are the greatest among the teachers of the law. For when one reaches a realization of the true aspect of all phenomena, shoho, then one will find that everything from the burning of the fierce fires of hell to the effect of attaining Buddhahood exists in one's life, and that one is a teacher of the law concerning the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. What did I just say? We all come to the realization that everything has the Buddha nature. Everything possesses the Buddha nature. The phenomenal realm is all nothing more than the Buddha nature, right? He says, again, we may say that the word law in the title teacher of the law represents the Daimoku, and the word teacher represents Nichiren and his followers. And so this is point one. You're going to see that everything that Nichiren says about him applies to you. You are exactly the same on that basis. Point two, on the persons who have fulfilled their great vow, because they pity living beings, they are born in this evil world, so they may broadly expound this sutra. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the great vow refers to the propagation of the Lotus Sutra. Because and for us, because we're born in the latter day of law, it's the propagation of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, right? Because they pity living beings refers to all the living beings in the country of Japan. The persons who are born in this evil world are Nichiren and his followers. Broadly means to expound the sutra throughout the southern continent of Japadvipa. This sutra refers to the Daimoku. Okay, broadly expound this sutra. Broadly expound the Daimoku is what it's really saying. He just qualified that for you. Now, the above passage refers to Nichiren and his followers who chant the Daimoku Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which did not exist in the time of Myolo and, what we were just reading a minute ago from chapter 4, right? Words and phrases and onwards and phrases Nam-myoho Renge-kyo didn't exist. Point 3, page 82. On the passage, if one of these good men or good women in the time after I've passed into extinction is able to secretly expound the Lotus Sutra to one person, even one phrase of it, then you should know that he or she is the envoy of the Thus Come One. He has been dispatched by the Thus Come One and carries out the Thus Come One's work. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the practitioner of the Lotus Sutra acts as the envoy of the Thus Come One. The Thus Come One is Shakyamuni, and the Thus Come One's work is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. The Thus Come One also refers to the living beings of the 10 worlds and 3,000 realms. Nichiren and his followers who now chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are the true envoys. All right? Point 4. On the passage Medicine King, you should know that if after the Thus Come One has entered extinction, if there are those who can copy, uphold, read, and recite this sutra, offer alms to it, and expound it for others, then the Thus Come One will cover them with his robe. You should know that such persons lodge in the same place as the Thus Come One, and the Thus Come One pats them on the head with his hand. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the votaries of the Lotus Sutra, men and women alike, are all the Thus Come One. For they exemplify the principle that earthly desires are enlightenment and the sufferings of birth and death are nirvana. All of us do that, right? By being born into the Sahe world and attaining Buddhahood in our present form. Now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are persons who lodge in the same place as the Thus Come One. Therefore, Fu Tashi says in his commentary, morning after morning we rise up with the Buddha, evening after evening we lie down with the Buddha, moment by moment we attain the way, moment by moment we reveal our true identity, that of being the Thus Come One. Point 5. On the passage, this storehouse of the Lotus Sutra is hidden deep and far away from where no person can reach it. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the words, this storehouse of the Lotus Sutra, refer to the Daimoku. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the Daishonin says. The words hidden deep refer to the essential teaching. The Daimoku of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is hidden deep in the essential teaching. You know that, right? The words far away refer to the theoretical teaching. No person can reach it applies to those who slander the law. Now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are not included among the people who can never reach it. Point 6, I'm going to go through all 16, 10 more. Point 6, on the passage, these people conjured up by magic will listen to the law, believe and accept it, and abide it without violation. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the word listen or hear indicates the stage of hearing the name and the words of the truth. They just heard Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. The word law refers to the Daimoku. Believe and accept means to accept and uphold the law. To abide by it without violation means to abide by and follow the two doctrines, the essential teaching and the theoretical teaching. That means the Lotus Sutra. The passage refers to Nichiren and his followers, the people who now chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. These persons conjured up by magic will listen to the law, believe and accept it, abide by without violation. It really only pertains to the bodhisattvas of the earth. Nichiren just qualified. My disciples. You got it?
Yeah.
All right, point 7. On the robe, the seat, in the room of the passage, Medicine King. If there are good people and good women who, after the thus come one has entered extinction, wish to expound this Lotus Sutra for the 4 kinds of believers, how should they expound it? These good men and good women should enter the thus come one's room, put on the thus come one's robe, sit in the thus come one's seat, and then for the sake of the 4 kinds of believers, broadly expound this sutra. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the robe, the seat, and the robe represent the 3 bodies of the Buddha, the Dharma body, the reward body, and the manifested body. Do you guys have those 3 bodies?
Yes.
Yes. The 3 truths, the truth of non-substantiality, the truth of temporary existence, and the truth of the middle way. Do all of you possess the 3 truths within your... Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the 3 categories of action, actions of the body, mouth, and mind. You all do that too, right? Now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are fulfilling these 3 rules of preaching represented by the robe, the seat, and the room in each moment of their lives. They're the Buddha. The robe is the robe that is gentle and forbearing, chapter 10. I'm loving here and seeing all your smiles tonight. Gentle and forbearing, as well as that which is referred to in the passage that says we will put on the armor of perseverance from chapter 13, encouraging devotion. As for the seat, if one devotes oneself to the practice without begrudging one's life, then it becomes the seat of the emptiness of all phenomena from chapter 10. The room is so called because one dwells in pity and compassion. When one expounds the teachings, it means to have the kind of concern that a mother has for her child. That's what he's saying. That's how we should feel toward those that we're trying to encourage to achieve the same state that we have, right? And are we not fulfilling these 3 rules of preaching in each moment of our lives that Daishonin asks? Yes, we are, is the answer. Point 8 on the passage. If you wish to put aside all sloth and remissness, you should listen to this sutra. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the words all sloth and remissness refer to the teachings of the sutras that were expounded as expedient means during the more than 40 years following the Buddha's enlightenment. He's not talking about you being lazy or not wanting to mow the lawn. Okay? This is about engaging yourself in your time in activities that are not fruitful. And it's not fruitful to study the Buddhism of harvest and the Buddhism in the latter day of law. It doesn't lead anywhere other than to Nam-myoho Renge-kyo for you to begin from there. You can go ahead and start from there in the first place. He says, continuing on point 8, these are all sutras of sloth and remissness, all the expedient means that precede the lotus. This sutra indicates the Daimoku, not the Lotus Sutra itself. Now Nichiren and his followers who chant the Daimoku or Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are diligent in their efforts. They're without sloth and remissness. That's all you got to do. This is why the sutra says you must listen to the sutra. In particular, dig this, he says. In particular, it says you must listen to this sutra from Nichiren. His teaching. Okay? Not Shakyamuni's teaching. He just made that distinction right there. Do you understand? All right. Point 9. On the words, if they do not hear the Lotus Sutra, they will be far removed from the Buddha's wisdom. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the words do not hear refer to those who slander the law. They are far removed from the wisdom that brings in attainment of Buddhahood. But now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo have gained enlightenment into the Buddha's wisdom, and therefore they are very near to the attainment of Buddhahood. Point 10. On the passage, if when a person expounds this sutra, there is someone who speaks ill and reviles him or attacks him with swords and staves, tiles and stones, he should think of the Buddha and for that reason be patient. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says this sutra refers to the Daimoku. Speaking ill is an action of the mouth. Attacking someone with swords and staves is an act of the body. These 2 types of actions of the mouth and body come from the actions of the mind. But now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo think of the Buddha and the charge he has laid on them. And for that reason, they respond with patience. Point 11. on the passage is, if after I've entered extinction, there are those who can expound this sutra, I will send the 4 kinds of believers, magically conjured, monks and nuns, men and women of pure faith, to offer alms to the teachers of the law. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says men and women refers to ordinary men and women. Teachers of the law refers to Nichiren and his followers. Of pure faith means to those who have faith in the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are such persons. This mosquito wants to participate. This passage in the sutra indicates that the heavenly gods and benevolent deities will appear. Now Nichiren is qualifying and almost making a promise to you, okay? Have faith in my teaching, he's constantly saying, right? So he says, this passage in the sutra indicates that the heavenly gods and benevolent deities will appear in the form of men and women to offer alms to the devotees of the Lotus Sutra. Okay, so they'll just appear. People will appear to see, and it's a mutual situation. They didn't just help you. Right. They've gained great fortune by helping you.
Yeah.
Okay? Understand that. That's their benefit. Their benefit is being able to help you. That's a step toward them attaining Buddhahood someday. That's giving alms to the Buddha. So, you can be all grateful to them, but in actuality, it's they that should be grateful to you on the deepest level. All right? Stop being arrogant. I'm reading the sutra exactly as it's written. All right?
Yes.
Point 12. On the passage, if someone thinks to do evil to the preachers with swords and staves or with tiles or stones, I will dispatch persons magically conjured who will act to guard and protect them. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the words persons magically conjured refer to beings such as the guardian and protector, the great Bodhisattva Hachiman, who appeared at Tatsunokuchi. This passage in the sutra indicates that such deities will guard and protect Nichiren and his followers, who now chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Point 13 on the passage, if one stays close to the teachers of the law, he will speedily gain the Bodhisattva way. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says staying close to is another term for believing and accepting. Teachers of the law refers to Nichiren and his followers. Bodhisattva is a preliminary step toward the attainment of the effect of Buddhahood. The passage refers to Nichiren and his followers who now chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. You with me? Yeah. You're all teachers of the law. You're all bodhisattvas learning from the teachers of the law. It's the same thing. It's 2 different phases of your life. Point 14 on the passage, by following and learning from these teachers, he will see Buddhas as numerous as Ganji sands. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says these teachers refers to Nichiren and his followers. Learning means to learn about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Following means believing and accepting it. Point 15 on the words teacher and learning. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo that Nichiren and his followers chant is embodied in the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. The life of the person who is learning and practicing it. Both the teacher and those who are learning from him are the teacher and disciples of the 3,000 worlds of the Dharma realm. Did you all catch that? Mm-hmm. So there's no separation between the teacher and the learner. Okay? Point 16 on the words, he will see Buddhas as numerous as Ganji sands. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says to see Buddhas as numerous as Ganji sands means to see the treasure tower. The Gohonzon. Buddhas as numerous as Ganji sands refers to the Buddha many treasures of the treasure tower. The many of the name many treasures refers to the Dharma realm, the realm of many phenomena. Treasures refers to enlightenment into the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. To see the Dharma realm as the Buddha many treasures is to see Buddhas as numerous as Ganji sands. That's what I just said, though. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. To see the Dharma realm as being the Buddha land, then you see all the inhabitants of the Dharma realm being Buddhas, right? That means everybody around you. That's as many Buddhas as there are Ganji sands, okay? The treasure tower, treasures refers to enlightenment into the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. To see the Dharma realm, which is to perceive the Buddha nature of all things, right? To see the Dharma realm as the Buddha many treasures is to see Buddhas as numerous as Ganges sands. Therefore, to the present chapter, the teacher of the law, is followed by the chapter, the emergence of the treasure tower. The treasure tower is the vehicle in which the teacher of the law, who possesses understanding, practice, and enlightenment, rides. How cool is that, huh? This is all, this is way before now. Now when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam, who got to read the orally transmitted teachings or hear the orally transmitted teachings in the time of the Daishonin? Only nobody, unless you were up in Minobu, man. You didn't catch any of this shit. This is heavy, heavy, heavy. This is the truth, period. The treasure tower is the vehicle in which the teacher of the law, who possesses understanding, practice, and enlightenment, all of you, rides. Now, when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, they are exemplifying wonderful understanding, wonderful practice, and wonderful enlightenment, like wonderful law. That is, they exemplify unfathomable understanding, unfathomable practice, and unfathomable attainment. Not even they can fully perceive the truth of what has qualified them to live the life that they're living now. Okay? It's beyond your perception. This means they have gained enlightenment into the truth of the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. That means they have already attained Buddhahood. All right? The word Ganges in the phrase Ganges Sands denotes a river that washes away evil and brings forth good. Buddhas as numerous as Ganges Sands means that every single word of the sutra represents a Buddha body golden in color. You should think carefully about the word see. It refers to the insight or vision, not necessarily literally sight, right? To the of a Buddha. It refers to the insight or vision of a Buddha. The word following in the preceding line of this sutra means following this Buddha wisdom and vision. The word see in the phrase he will see Buddhas and the seeing of the treasure tower refer to the two concepts of the insentient environment and the living self. The see of seeing Buddhas as numerous as Ganges Sands represents the living self. The see of seeing the treasure tower represents the insentient environment. Okay? And I know I went way over, but thank you for letting me share this with you. And next week, we'll go back to chapter 5 and continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.